Well, good. Thank you for having me today.
Of course, of course. So let me just get right into it. And Paolo, you're the VP of Media at AB InBev, one of the largest U.S. advertisers. What does it mean to be the head of paid media for AB InBev? Can you tell us a little bit about your priorities?
Sure thing. So if I could summarize what I do in a couple of things that, the first one would be, coordinating all the media investment and the partnership for our portfolio of brands, and therefore making sure that, our brands and our product are top of mind for our consumers. We drive them to purchase and to choose our products, but also try to create unforgettable moments and experiences like what we've done recently in Super Bowl a month ago, but also what we've been trying to do all throughout 2020 during these unprecedented times, as many have called them, right? So reframing more what we do, just not as advertising and as an interruption, but actually as content. So that is kind of one of the two major focuses that I have. The other thing is for me is challenging what we do both internally and externally in the way we think about media. We purchase, measure, and optimize media to stay ahead of the curve, and actually, also to make sure that our investment has a greater impact. And right now, a big focus of mine on that front is everything that has to do with optimizing for viewability and attention, both in digital and in traditional linear TV space. So that's an area of focus of mine.
Awesome. Awesome. So you mentioned the Super Bowl, which was just a little over a month ago. Congratulations, Tom Brady and the Buccaneers. When I look at the Super Bowl, it's such an iconic, high-value production and a very expensive event to participate in. But AB InBev has been known to produce some of the most iconic commercials. I think of Budweiser, and one of my favorites is, "Are you up for whatever?" Can you explain to the audience a little bit about why the Super Bowl is such an important event to participate in? And can you talk a little bit about kind of what goes into the overall beginning to end production? Because I think that's super interesting for us to hear.
Yeah, for sure. Super Bowl is kind of a unique event on its own. Is probably the largest media stage in the world, and it's the only event where people actually tune in not just for the game but also for the ads, which is makes it unique on its own, and that lends itself to be a great platform for creative and innovation and everything you can do both from the creative side but also on the media side. We use it to kick off our year, to introduce new products that we're going to launch throughout the year, or broadcast the message for our large and well-known brands like Budweiser or Bud Light, if you will. The brands that we select to air during Super Bowl are all part of a very deliberate commercial strategy, as I said, right? The new innovations that we want to bring to the market, or the existing brands and the new message or tone that they want to set for the year. And this year we found out that not being in the Super Bowl for Anheuser-Busch, one of the Anheuser-Busch brand, is as makes such a loud noise as big as being in the Super Bowl. Budweiser was for the first time in 37 years did not appear in the Super Bowl, and therefore made in order to actually use those resources to support COVID vaccine efforts and the Ad Council, and that made a big noise in this space for good reason. But what you see in the in the 30 seconds or the 60 seconds of the Super Bowl ads is a work that we lead up to it for months and months. We work up to it for months and months, and we use it in a couple of ways, both to create that human connection with people that is important. It's not what your brand stands for and what people care about, but finding the great overlap between the two things that actually allow you to connect with your audience and make it relevant. But also the other thing is, we use it to leverage and flex everything that we learn so far. So in this Super Bowl, we leverage a lot of the capabilities that we picked up in the past year in terms of creating digital experiences, connecting everything to digital commerce and e-commerce, creating content, and many other things that, you know, by necessity we had to learn how to do in 2020, and then we dialed up to the max for Super Bowl 2021.
Awesome. So, you know, when it's all said and done, when, you know, the scoreboard says 0-0 on the timing, how do you guys measure the effectiveness, whether it's through quantitative data or qualitative results, the impact and the success of your overall Super Bowl campaigns?
It's, as you said, it's a combination of both quantitative and qualitative metrics, right? From a quantitative side, you can use more established modeling approaches like MMM and other things like this. But also you can use you know, the impact that you have in terms of space at retails or share of sales that you have in the weeks and the leading to, during and after Super Bowl in that sense. But also we use more qualitative ones like you know, share of conversation, PR impression, sentiment, you know, even completion rate or key message inclusion for everything that we pick up, because this allows us to optimize on the fly. The thing is that obviously it's a mix of art and science. You want to be relevant, you want to pick up the right level of conversation, dial up what's working and dial down what's not working, and then hopefully, you know, seeing those results also in terms of, as I said, sales, share, and more structured measurement impacts like MMM and things like this.
Awesome. What's your favorite AB InBev commercial of all time?
Wow, that is a tough one to answer. It's like picking your favorite child. So what I can say is that so one thing that we had a lot of fun bringing to life this year, one campaign was the Bud Light Seltzer Lemonade campaign, and basically the film, the ad that we aired, played on the idea that if life gives you lemon, you make lemonade. And because 2020 gave us so many lemons, Bud Light Seltzer decided to make a lemonade, and that was fun on its own. But then we figured out, you know, how to best flex what we learned in the past year and connecting it 360 to many channels. So for example, as soon as the ad air, everyone that had Drizzly installed in their phone got a pop-up notification saying, hey, did you see the ad? We saw it. And when you clicked on it and you opened the app, you saw a rain of lemons that was coming down and taking over the homepage or the page they were opening. So, you know, reflecting kind of the spirit of the commercial that just aired. And then when actually the broadcast came back from the commercial break, we used one of our billboards in order to zoom in on the stadium and the audience there. And there was a guy, a famous meme called Dude with a Sign, that basically held up a sign saying, you know, when life gives you lemon, make lemonade. And so it translated, you know, what we showed in the ad perfectly into the broadcast and brought it, you know, into the game. And it's kind of funny because, you know, there is one of my colleagues and member of our team that had to explain to the FBI why a dude with a sign with a bunch of lemons on it had to enter the stadium. And so it was funny, but it's definitely, you know, a way that we use to blend the you know, blur the lines between what's advertising and what's actually the content and entertainment itself.
Mm-hmm. Awesome, thank you. So I'm going to shift gears a little bit now, talk about the convergence of linear and connected TV. And, you know, I think I've seen about maybe 10 plus webinars or panels this week talking about the shift in consumption being trailed by the shift in ad spend. So, you know, I think it's quite evident throughout the past year that connected TV consumption has extremely accelerated. And we are seeing a slight or a decent decline in linear television. Do you expect the budgets, the advertising budgets, to follow in the same trend as consumption is shifting?
Absolutely, no doubt about it. I think that we're still in the early stages, obviously, of these channels of connected TV, and there is a lot to be figured out. But you know, the trend is inevitable, and I think that has it happened, for example, with mobile in the past or programmatic in the past, I think we're going to see the same trend. We see a spike in consumption, and soon after, a catch up in terms of advertising spend and reshifting of the media channel allocation.
Yeah, of course. I think, it reminds me of back in the day when desktop versus mobile consumption, but all this
right
desktop. Now it's kind of, there's always a Mary Meeker e-marketer slide to reference in every discussion about where the spend's going. So,
right.
with the growth and disruption going on in the TV industry, there's still many challenges in connected TV, whether it's from pure execution or commercial or product technology. What do you think are some of the biggest challenges in connected TV as it is today that need to be addressed in order to help accelerate the shift from linear to connected TV spend?
I almost feel like I'm giving you a cliche answer when I say fragmentation, but it's actually, I think that's that, right? I think that there is fragmentation that it comes to life in different ways and different forms. So one is the inventory and the fragmentation of inventory itself, and and that's the reason why, starting even before we started dialing down on connected TV, we invested a lot in supply path optimization on the programmatic side, because it allows us to better navigate this space and understand how you can access the inventory in the most straightforward way, but also establish more meaningful partnership with all the players that were adding the highest amount of value in the value chain. So that is important, and the same problem exists also on the connected TV space. Data is another thing. Right now there is different layers and different capabilities in terms of data that you can put up upon the buy that you do, depending on the partner that you have, depending on the channel and activation that you do, and therefore data also it was already a challenge, and everyone is kind of wrangling with the user data collection and use of data in a privacy compliant way. But then when you add, also the different fragmentation from different partners that you work with and what you can use, add that extra layer of complexity. Measurement is another thing, right? And so thinking about, how you can measure your delivery, the pixeling, for example, that you can do, where you can do it, where you cannot do it, and other forms of validation, but also understanding how you measure the impact in the right way. And at the end of the day, the simplest way to find a path to scale is for advertisers to have the ability to find reach at scale in a consistent manner amongst all these elements, right? As I said, targeting, measuring, and all these kind of things. But as I said, these are all problems that we saw when the programmatic ecosystem started developing and becoming, a very meaningful channel for all the players in the space. And I think that we're going through the same process with connected TV. I think that the biggest mistake that an advertiser can do right now is not investing meaningful efforts and resources in figuring out this space. But yeah, the one thing that I think I'm a little afraid of also is the creation of more fragmentation, siloing, or walled gardens, if you will. And not just from, for example, what a YouTube might offer and the limitation that you might have on that front with the social players, or call it whatever you want, right? But also all the networks now offering some kind of degree of, digital stream. And the way they go about it in creating their ecosystem, their environment where advertisers can play, is going to make a big difference if they take a more of a programmatic open approach versus a siloed walled garden kind of approach that we're seeing in other spaces.
Yeah, I don't think this industry needs any more walled gardens.
It makes two of us, yeah.
So I'm gonna pull back sports, because I think sports is such a strong standing pillar for television. I know AB invests heavily in sports, especially football. Where do you see sports consumption going from a viewership standpoint between the different distribution outlets, whether it's going to go streaming or it's going to stick with the big major broadcasters? How do you see that playing out?
I well, that's a few billion dollars question, not even a $1 billion question. But all right, let me take here an educated guess. I think that sports is going to follow the trend probably a little bit with a legward kind of with a little bit of a delay. But I think that even what you see with Amazon and the Thursday night football with the NFL is one of the things that show that sports is trending that way. And I was pulling stats late last year to see what percentage of sports watch are actually streaming content, and it's growing year over year at a significant pace. And even this year Super Bowl, I think that streaming represented, I don't want to overstate it, but I think something between 12 and 15%. So there is a consumer demand for sure. And I think that then the offer will follow suit to some degree. I think that again, sports, as you hinted, is going to be a little bit more of a stronghold of the linear offering for a little while longer. But I don't think that we're going to see it stay exclusively on linear TV. I think that things are going to move, and at some point we're going to hit the tipping point where everything is going to migrate. But I think that this is only the exemplification of the convergence that there is between the digital offering and the linear offering, right? There is not an out, if you will. And as I said before, major networks and partners are already offering, digital packages and offers that kind of blend what's available on linear and digital. So it's going to be an evolution. It's going to be an interesting one. But I think that we also need to keep an eye on ratings when it comes to sports. And what we thought that before sports were the last stronghold of ratings and strong watching behavior. Recent ratings don't actually prove against that, or live TV in general, if you will, right? And sports obviously being one of the biggest elements there. So it's going to be interesting to see how people continue to behave in coming out of more than a year of being locked at home and streaming everything and anything, to seeing how the next 12 to 18 months are going to evolve.
Got it. So, I have to throw a bone for the fellow sellers on in the audience. Can you share a little bit about the buying process for linear and connected TV at AB InBev? Is it mostly done during the upfronts? You guys pushing more towards digital, programmatic? Can you kind of outline how you work with your agencies and your in-house team to buy connected TV?
For sure. So we have long-term deals for sure, but we are a very meaningful player also in the scatter market. And the way we do we do our buys through our agency of record, Dentsu, is in a very structured and coordinated manner. What we use is a waterfall approach that basically takes into consideration qualified reach, pricing, but also, as I was mentioning before, we also now layer on viewability and attention metrics in order to understand where there are the opportunities for, efficiently priced inventory that gathers high viewability or high attention. And the interesting thing that we're doing on this front is that now we measure viewability not only in the digital space, but also in the TV space with a company called TVision that measures people in the room when my ad is airing. In the same way, they can measure attention as eyes on the screen when the ad is airing. So the concept of viewability is not foreign to the digital space, and therefore, what we have been doing for years on the digital space. But the interesting thing is now that we bring it to the linear space, or the connected TV space, right? So we create this waterfall that takes into consideration, as I said, on target reach, CPMs, and viewability. And now, I can create a VCPM, viewable CPM, viewable qualified CPM, call it whatever you want, where we're basically the partner or the channel that ranks the highest gets the first dollar, and then we go down the waterfall until either I hit the target reach or I exhaust my dollars. And the very interesting thing about it is that now we can put into the same ranker networks and the different day parts. We can put, the YouTube of these were connected TV partners and buys and programmatic buys that you can do. And the interesting thing also that allows us to break down the saddle between traditional and digital in a way that we consider everything between TV and what we call TV replacement. And TV replacement is anything that, as I said, like connected TVs to TV replacement, but also a full screen experience on your phone is, I would argue, that gathers the same kind of attention and focus that you would have with a linear buy with TV, right? And so even if it's a smaller screen, doesn't mean that doesn't give you the lean back full on experience. And therefore it becomes very interesting as you can put everything together, linear and digital, and you can actually measure and compare everything with the same metrics of viewability now, but then we're already working towards attention, and therefore understanding what CPM can get me a qualified audience that is actually attentive, and this is I think the next step in the industry.
So should we expect to see KPIs listed out as effective attention CPM?
Oh, that's my dream. That's my goal. I truly believe that attention should be a currency in the industry. And I'm really looking forward to work with a lot of partners, and I'm ready in the middle of the conversation to work with partners to understand how we can guarantee on viewability, both on the linear and digital space, but also on attention, and seeing what how we can partner together for create more attentive environments where people have give more of their attention, and therefore these more attentive environment become more premium environment that command a higher price, which I'm willing to pay, because I think that without attention we're not going to have an impact. If you're not seeing my ad, it's very unlikely that my ad is going to have an impact on you, and then for a result I'm willing to pay a premium for that, because at that point I know that my ROI from my investment is going to be higher. So I think it's a way to align incentives in everything that we do from the buy side and the sell side, in order to bring a better raise the bar in the industry, but also bring a better consumer experience, because in all of that it means that people are being more attentive and watching more carefully all the content that's served to them.
Got it. So you mentioned the importance of viewability in the digital environment, or desktop mobile, and then attention for TV, connected TV. How much, it's for sure that strong creative plays an important part on driving those, viewability and attention metrics. Are you seeing a shift in creative production, whether it's as simple as just shortening a 30-second asset to a 6-second for a mobile OTT environment, or creating more personalized creative for connected TV, because it allows for more unique targeting opportunities? Can you talk about how creative has changed now that there are so many different screens and devices where you can display and produce and distribute in AB and Bev ad?
Yeah, it's fascinating to me how much a new channel, a new technology allows you to become more creative. And I'm very lucky to work with great brand teams, creative team, and creative agencies that really, when we partner together to understand the complexities and the nuances of that medium, the new medium that we're working with, and so me and my team lean in together with our media agency and try to lay out what that channel has to offer, then it comes back to iterating and creating together and figuring out what's going to work and what's not going to work. And so some of it is targeting and geo targeting that you can do from a connected TV standpoint. We started, for example, in a large scale last year, Super Bowl last year, with one of our brands, Michelob Ultra Pure Gold, that is an organic beer, and they were launching a campaign focused on supporting organic farmers. And the insights there was that there's only 1% of organic farmland in the United States, and through connected TV, we were able to serve actually customize ads in each state, showing actually how many farms that were organic were actually present in the state, to make it so much more tangible and real, right? That insight. And so what Michelob Ultra then was doing in order to support organic farmers and contributing to the development, the conversion of organic farming if for every pack that was bought. So that's one example. The other example is what we do with e-commerce, and so we see codes and QR codes that are embedded in the creative so that people can actually engage and buy, and you can have this DR message to a TV creative that before you never had, right? So, and you see how people, they start to lean in if you have a well curated, experience around their needs. The other thing is, for example, we have played with a kind of a choose your own adventure kind of creative where people could actually interact and
interactive creative within the that's
yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. And so that's the thing. That's how exciting it becomes, where you actually, you bring a new channel with new capabilities, and then you have brands and creative team iterating on that. And there is this synergy that you create between the media team and the media agency and the creative partners to create a new experience that hopefully will engage people and consumers more, and therefore command more of their attention and resonate better with them. So it's a virtuous cycle in that extent.
Awesome. Following this event, you'll have to send me a link to that creative. I would love to see that.
For sure.
So I think we have about time for one more question. I'm going to leave this as open-ended as possible. And I want you to answer this from the lens of a marketer at AB InBev, but also as a consumer. We actually have 10 more minutes. Well, let's stick to the question. So, future predictions for 2021 for TV, connected TV, one as a consumer, and on the flip side as a advertiser.
All right. So let me. I'll take the advertiser side as well, but I think it's infused in bed with everything that I observe also as a consumer. As we said before, streaming will keep growing. There is no question about it, and I think that what we've seen in the past year will just accelerate. People are getting used to consuming content on demand, consuming content on their own devices. And therefore that will continue, but also streaming in the broad sense in terms of connected TV, OTT, and all these kind of things, and therefore casting from their device and all these kind of things from different apps. I think that as a result of that, ratings, I think, will keep declining because there is going to be a shift to more streamed content, and as a result of that, I think that it's going to be interesting to see what happens when the country opens up more and people are going to be spending less time at home, and therefore more on the go, more with their friends, more doing all the things that they wish they could do last year they weren't, or in the past year they weren't able to do, right? So that will have a negative effect into, I think, ratings, and it's going to be interesting to see how the different broadcasting partners and networks are going to react to that. If keep on increasing the prices to quoting scarcity of inventory, right? Or they're going to take a different tack. All of this is going to create more of a divide between what we see on the linear space and the digital space. Right now, the state of play is that you have in the linear side, you have on average between 14 and 16 minutes of a commercial ad load per TV hour. And so when you compare that with the average of between 4 and 8 minutes, say 6, on the digital space, on digital streaming, that creates a very big divergence in the consumer experience. And therefore, more and more consumer will keep on, right, going to the more, the better consumer experience. And so seeing that migration and see that rating migration and all this kind of thing. So I think that there is a bit of a vicious cycle happening there. But then we'll see how how the different players will try to react and mitigate to that. As we said before, a lot of the networks are offering digital packages and digital offers that are becoming more and more enticing over time. But I think that there is also the opportunity for them to lean on their content creation capabilities to add value for the brands, right? And figuring out how, again, brands can lean in and become more part of the content and less of the interruptions. Therefore, partnering with the networks to find new ways to create value, and therefore, commanding the bigger partnerships, the higher price, and all these kind of things. I'm also very interested to understand how the digital partners will react to that, right? And so understanding how can we get rid of that fragmentation that we spoke about before in the CTV space, but also how digital partners can actually figure out ways of creating better content, new content, and ways to engage with the audience and garner their attention. There's no 15-second ad pre-roll that you can offer me that's gonna be a TV network that adds me actually in the broadcast of the sports game, or things like this. And so, but as we spoke about a minute ago, there are a lot of creative capabilities that you can do now with connected TV and many of the digital channels that make the user experience more interesting. So all in all, I think that it's going to be the trends that we've seen so far are going to continue. The interesting part is how people are going to react. I'm not confident enough to say how people are, the different players are going to react, but I think that as I said, there are going to be different approaches to it. There are going to be the people that are going to be a little bit more defensive and not willing to change the ways of doing business, and probably they're not going to be very well set up for the long term. And they're going to be partners that instead are going to be willing to experiment and share some of the risk and some of the cost of creating a better, newer experience. And I think that these are the people that I'm looking forward to partner with in order to actually figure out the future together.
Mm-hmm. So would you say the landscape will get more complex for marketers, or it'll get more unified and simplified?
Oh, for sure, more complex. And even think about everything that is happening on a privacy standpoint, right? I think that we're in this position where we're literally going to take a step back in order to take a step forward.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that if you're up for the challenge, I think it's going to be very exciting because there is a lot that can be created and figured out and invented. So it's a great time to be. And I think there is a quote that roughly states something like, time will never, it's never been so fast, passing so fast, but it's never going to be this low, right? Kind of thing. And I think that we're, it's never been so true.
Yeah. So we fast forwarded to 2021 and beyond predictions. Why don't we take a rewind back to 2020? And I would love to hear kind of some of the adjustments you've had to make from both an organizational standpoint, a marketer standpoint, due to the challenges that came across us as individuals and as corporate brands such as AB InBev through the pandemic.
It's been quite a ride, right? Past 12 months, I guess, for everyone. We had to adapt, and adapting has become the name of the game, right? I think that we had to figure out from the get-go when the country started going in lockdown, understanding how we change our media to be able to reach people where they were spending time. So this meant more on streaming, more on gaming, more on connected devices, and also leaning in more on e-commerce and shopper marketing and all these kind of things. But then leveraging more digital out of home versus static out of home, figuring out what to do with radio and all this kind of things. So it has been very, very interesting. But then uncertainty was kind of the reality, and therefore keeping in close touch with all our partners and understanding what new opportunities were coming, how the environment was changing, and all these kind of things. It was very interesting also to adapt from a creative and a messaging standpoint, and not being tone deaf, and delivering a message that was able to resonate with people. And a lot of work has been done from brand teams in order to be relevant in a tactful and a meaningful way, and from helping out with testing sites and blood drives to providing entertainment with live streams and all these kind of things. The adaptability that we had to force ourselves to has been definitely stressful, and it's been a challenge for everyone, especially in this new environment where before we thought we couldn't possibly work from home for an extended period of time and on VC, and we had to figure out a way, right? But I think that, as the says goes, never waste a good crisis, and I think that this is a huge crisis for everyone and the whole industry, and I think that the spirit of figuring out a way forward is taught us a great lesson and allowed us to pick up a skill that now we're going to be able to carry forward in future years. And I think that although through challenges and pain, we are all better as a result of that.
Yeah, with every challenge comes a learning experience. So
for sure.
Yeah. We do have one question from the audience. So from a marketer's perspective, is a digital minute more valuable than a linear TV minute?
That's a very good question. And there are possibly 15 different ways to answer this question, but I'm gonna take, most fundamental truth for me is, let's take a people first approach, a consumer first approach. Does it make any difference for a consumer when they're watching their TV, being these linear TV or connected TV? So you're watching, an on-demand, whatever on Hulu versus, linear TV? In that case, the digital minute doesn't make any difference, because most of the time they don't even understand, they don't even perceive the difference between how it's served. So we have a lot of constructs that we have as part of our industry, and we have to break those barriers and those constructs. Now, if we're looking at what you can do with that digital minute versus that linear minute, once again, is very different depending on the context. As we discussed during our chat, right? You can have more targeting, more customization on the digital minute, but at the same time, there is a lot of content that gets created on the traditional linear minute. So the short answer is it depends, but I think that if we take the lens of what is going to be the consumer experience for people watching, that is what's going to give us the right way to evaluate that minute for as marketers and advertisers.
Awesome. Well, it seems like our time is up. Paolo, thank you so much for the awesome insights and shared experiences. And Lauren,
it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you both for being here. We'll hope you